collective relational self. The third one is individual self, and the fourth one is individual relational self. Now, a collective or individual? Now, this how you look at it. So first, social identity. Social identity, we look a lot on the collective self or the collective relational self. Personal identity, we look a lot on the individual self. Now the story of the liquid, this one, it means that, let's say if we have no problem swallowing our own saliva, correct or not? We swallow every time, okay? But if I ask you to spit into a bottle of your own saliva, would you drink that? Usually no. We find it disgusting to drink things that doesn't belong to us, okay? And this one, it actually means that in regards to how you see yourself, we see ourselves as fairly important and fairly exclusive, yeah? Everything about ourselves is acceptable, but everything about the environment or other people, it's not that acceptable. Now, who am I? These are some of the self-knowledge. There are different parts of self. So as we go through, I hope that you can reflect back on yourself and see how you define yourself, coming to a conclusion. The first one is a self-concept. It's the information that you hold about yourself. Hardworking, lazy, responsible, an early person, a late person, yeah? Next one is your self-esteem. Self-esteem, hereby it means how good you feel about yourself. This one, you don't need a reason to convince yourself about this. I mean, in life, we need to have self-esteem. This is one of the basic rules for you to strive out in this world. I mean, it makes you feel good yourself. Even though you score nothing, even though you don't have any achievement, but as long as you have a good self-esteem, it works out well for you, okay? Even though you might just say, my parents love me, okay? It's, or God loves me. And that takes enough reason for you to feel good about yourself, or because you're a very special person, or because you are, everyone is special in its way, in his or her way, okay? Often people that I met, one of the problems they have is the lack of self-esteem. They don't feel good about themselves. That's why what they're trying to do is that they're trying to go to shopping centers and buy everything and put on their body, the hair, sunglasses, the hair, and they hope that through other things they would feel good about themselves. But most importantly, we have to look into ourselves. Do we feel good about ourselves? That is the basic thing before we go out shopping and we put some stickers on us and we feel good about ourselves. Now, some people, they have high self-esteem. Some people, they have low self-esteem. Does it change? It doesn't really change. It means how good you feel about yourself. Now, is it given by others or is it set by oneself? Okay. Now, two possibilities hereby, both are possible. Now, it's very dangerous if your self-esteem is given by other people. Let's say because people compliment you as someone great, you feel good about yourself. That's possible. Or you said by yourself, because I'm just special, that's why I feel good about myself, okay? Now, but especially dangerous if you just focus on other people's compliment every time, and every time you get compliment, you feel good about yourself, and today you have no compliment, you feel like, oh, what happened to me? Okay? Most importantly, know what you believed in, know your self-esteem, yeah? That's another type of self-esteem I'll look at is the fake self-esteem, which is some people, they think of oneself more highly than it should be, realistically. So the question is like Miss Malaysia or Miss Universe. What I see that there are pretty people around, but pretty people, they do not join that. But it's usually people with unrealistic high self-esteem or too much self-esteem that result in them doing so. Is it good or bad? It's actually good. I mean, there is no harm if you have a fake high self-esteem. It's no harm. It does you good. But you might just lose out realistically or with your friends, or your friends might think, what are you thinking? Yep. Next one is the ethnic and racial identity source with social identity, mediating them. Now, with your social identity, who you are, your ethnic and your racial identity, it would mediate. It would serve like a middleman, or it might strengthen your social identity, or it might reduce your social identity. Now, ethnic and racial, they are about the same, but try not to use erased when you say it. Try to use the word ethnic, because race, it sounds a bit bad. It's like it's like another situation whereby you call someone as handicapped, which you shouldn't call it handicap. I mean, you can call that person as physical disabled in a better way. Like, you don't say that, you just say pass away. Now, self-discrepancy. Discrepancy means there is a gap between the thinking about yourself. By Higgins in 1987, he looked at 3 types of self, which is the first one, your actual self, who you are today, who you are, what your job is, what role are you playing. The second one is your ideal self. You want to be the perfect person, who is the perfect or the perfect Michelle to say. I mean, of course, I have my ideal self, but I'm sure that I would never reach to that ideal self. Now, why? Because humans are basically imperfect, yeah? And it's always imperfection that we strive to become better. So one day, if you realize you're perfect, there's not much left. And it's good, because we cannot always reach to our perfect self or the ideal self. That makes us work better and work more towards it. Now, or the odd self, which means what you should do, what you need to do. This one might conflict with the role as well, because people would require you to do something even though you don't want. I mean, like a police, you ought to behave fairly, or teacher, you ought to explain things nicely, or usually it conflicts because you as a person, you don't like to explain too much. So because of your ought self, you ought to perform in this way. Now, that shows a conflict within. So we have 3 types of self: our actual, our ideal, and our ought self. Now, so what happens is that we have dissatisfaction within us, okay? Constantly inside our mind, we always think about what we can do about ourselves, okay? We keep improving ourselves, actually. Yeah, that's why we keep improving ourselves. Like, one of the things you're doing right now is to study. I'm sure you study for a reason. I'm sure you study, you want to get your bachelor's or master's because you want to improve yourself. You are just another step towards your ideal self. Yep. That's why it's good to never reach the ideal self. Now, the self-regulation is to reduce your discrepancy. You choose, you control, and then you direct your own behavior. So if you look at the just now one, the actual plus the ideal self, we can lead to disappointment because we are never ideal ourselves, or sadness or failure, okay? Or you want to become a CEO of a company, and if you can't do that, you'll be rather disappointed. And the actual plus the self, thereby it goes to plus. Now, if you ought to be and your actual self, there is a clash. What results in is you feeling anxious because you are not doing what you should be. Because the society expects you of a certain behavior. Your children expect you to have a certain behavior. You might have a bit of fear or anxiety or threat. Yeah. Now, the next one is self-efficacy, meaning how good are you in completing a given task, okay? Self-efficacy means, are you good at solving any problem. Some people that have high self-efficacy, I would say that to myself because I need to make sure that I do things well and I finish it well. Some people, they do not have high self-efficacy as long as it goes through well, and they blame most of the situation onto